As amazing as Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin have been this season, it isn't all bright skies and bunny rabbits. The Strolls are a very proud family, and this team is their team. Since they took over Aston Martin, Lance has been beaten by his teammate every year, but it's been close at times, not this season though. The car is fast, but in Bahrain it showed its fragility, and with Fernando Alonso taking all the headlines, the Strolls might not be as happy as you would expect. Stick with me as I try to slow down the Aston Martin hype train just a little. Regular viewers will know how excited I am about Aston Martin messing up the status quo on the grid, and Alonso proving that old dogs can learn new tricks. So it breaks my heart to say that this might not carry on forever. With Alonso finishing behind only the 2 Red Bulls in the opening races, and Lance Stroll contributing points at the season opener before his retirement at Jeddah, Aston Martin finds themselves second in the constructors' standings after 2 races. The team are sensibly not getting carried away though. Asked to assess Aston Martin's level of competitiveness, team boss Mike Crack stressed that they need to be careful with any conclusions, despite being encouraged by what he had seen so far. We have 2 data samples from 2 completely different tracks. In these 2 tracks, we were competitive, but there are some others to come, he commented. We don't want to underestimate. It could be one of our competitors has an issue that we're not aware of that could rejig the order, so I think we need to wait and see. 2 races is not a lot in Formula 1. 2 races into last season, we all thought that Ferrari had both championships in the bag. Then they forgot to upgrade their car and the strategy team just disappeared. I don't think that'll happen to Aston Martin. With the shadow of Lawrence Stroll hanging heavy over the team, they understand the importance of success. Lawrence Stroll is an incredibly successful businessman, a multi-billionaire in fact, and you don't achieve that without a level of ruthlessness that the Ferrari owners are clearly lacking. His passion is racing, and he's financially and emotionally invested in this team. That ruthless winning mentality seeps through the team from him, so they shouldn't do a Ferrari. But someone behind them could do an Aston Martin and shoot up the grid. Toto Wolff this week said his team would just copy Aston Martin's car if it meant they would be faster than they are at the moment. Not that Mike Crack seems to care. Asked if the team are looking behind at Mercedes and Ferrari, or ahead at current pace setters Red Bull, he said, "Well, the reference is always there with the fastest car, you know? That is one thing. And the other thing is in terms of identifying weaknesses and areas for improvement. You look at your own car and look on the weekend how it goes. It doesn't make sense to go, we have this percentage to them, we have this percentage on them. You need to look at your own car and assess where it is weak and move from there. There is no reason for Aston Martin to be looking behind them. They've made it very clear with this car that they can outdevelop Ferrari and Mercedes, and anyone else on the grid if they want to. I know you're probably thinking, this is all good news so far. Choo-choo, I'm on this effing hype train. But just wait, we are getting there. The target for Aston Martin now is to close the gap to Red Bull. They have a massive aero testing advantage over Red Bull until the summer. Then the testing allowance is redistributed according to the FIA's sliding scale. At the moment, because they finished 7th in the Constructors' Championship last season, they have 100% of the allowed wind tunnel and computational fluid dynamics, or CFD, runs. If they stay in 2nd until June 30th, when the allowance is redistributed, they'll have 75% instead. That means they'll go from 40 wind tunnel runs a week to 30, 250 CFD items to 187.5 each week. That is a big decrease. Red Bull currently have 25.25 wind tunnel runs per week compared to Aston's 40. At the moment, Aston Martin have a huge advantage over Red Bull, but after June 30th, that advantage will almost completely disappear. There are other developmental worries for Aston Martin as well. Pushed on whether the mighty Red Bull RB19 package can be reeled in over the course of the campaign, Mike Crack said, "It's a good question, if they are catchable. Now the development race is going on, we're battling here with people who have different firepower than we have in terms of infrastructure, also being used to doing that. I think we need to be careful of making too many predictions in that regard. It can be managed to keep that gap, but can we close it? We will work hard. We have seen last year that we can close the gap to some cars in front of us, but just because we did it last year does not mean we can do it again. As much as we want to see Aston Martin push on and challenge Red Bull thanks to their development time advantage, they don't have their own wind tunnel. They haven't been fighting at the sharp end of F1 for years, and because of that, they don't have the same level of factory. They will in the next couple of years with their new factory at Silverstone with their own wind tunnel, but at the moment they're using Mercedes. The same wind tunnel that Mercedes aero engineers have been complaining about being too old for years. That's why I'm trying to lower my own levels of expectations. The team's potential issues don't stop there, unfortunately. As much as Lawrence Stroll loves racing, and he bought Aston Martin as an investment and for his own pleasure, the investment also serves the purpose of helping his son's career. I mentioned Lance Stroll earlier, but let's take a deeper look at the Canadian's career. He joined Williams in 2017, just before the team's form nosedived to the level it is at the moment. He actually scored a podium in his debut season for the team at Baku. He was helped by Hamilton and Vettel having issues during the race, but it was well earned. If you discount George Russell's podium at the Belgian Grand Prix that never was, then he was actually the last person to score a podium for Williams. He literally lost second place to Bottas on the line as well. Despite a strong start, Stroll has never really challenged for much more than a midfield place, and his poor record against his teammates is regularly used as an example of why he might not be deserving of a place on the grid. 2018 was the only year he managed to beat a teammate, but in his defense, the teammates he's lost to are Felipe Massa, Sergio Perez, Sebastian Vettel, and now Fernando Alonso. 6 Drivers' Championships, 101 race wins, and 1,162 race starts between them. It's not like he's been losing to Nikita Mazepin. The arrival of Fernando Alonso will have helped Lance's career. Alonso has motivated the team and given some more direction to the development of the car, but Lawrence Stroll might not be seeing it that way, something that Peter Windsor recently pointed out. Windsor said, "At the end of the race, with all the Aston Martin mechanics in green in front of the podium, and Fernando being Mr. Charm, Mr. Charisma, with a fluorescent green Aston Martin cap and smile, and just looking $100 million, you had to think, not sure Stroll Sr. will be that happy about the way things are going at the moment. This is Fernando almost becoming bigger than the team, and Stroll will be thinking, what's happening with my son? Why is he retired? What's going on?" Windsor explained that the situation at Aston Martin, with a team owned by the father of one of the drivers, creates a different dynamic to most other F1 teams. He said, "This isn't Red Bull, where Dietrich Mateschitz loved lots of different racing drivers and loved putting them together, seeing them compete and giving an opportunity to many young drivers. This is the father of one driver effectively buying a Formula 1 team for him and seeing now the Fernando Alonso phenomenon, and he wants his son there." I agree with Peter in part. If I was Lawrence Stroll and my son was getting left behind by my new driver, I would be upset, but I think it's a little early to make that call yet. 2 races in, Lance hasn't had the chance to show what he can do in the new car yet. His DNF in Saudi Arabia was due to an energy recovery issue. Even though the TV images showed marshals putting out a fire on his brakes, Lance has said that there was also smoke coming from the engine, and he had been losing power for a few laps by the point he pulled off the track. Hopefully it was something simple like a cooling issue, not an inherent problem with the electronics of the Mercedes engine. Lawrence isn't going to be over the moon with Fernando getting all the attention right now, but he will know there's a lot of season to come yet. Lance will have his chance to get some podiums this season. Would Lawrence do anything to help his son over Alonso though? He could ask Lance to be given the slightly stronger of the engines they received from Mercedes. He could ask the team to favour Lance with new upgrades before Alonso. If the 2-time champion keeps blowing Lance out of the water on track, then it could happen. So, have I managed to slow the hype train down for you at all? Or are you still getting your hopes up for Fernando to win his 3rd World Drivers' Championship? Let us know what you think in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.